Clash Royale just dropped its newest tower troop and it is absolutely insane. This is the Royal Chef. In exchange for a minor decrease in HP, damage, and attack speed, he gains the ability to cook up pancakes. Once done cooking, he throws the pancake at your highest HP troop in the arena and increases its level by 1. Not only is this effect stackable, but the Royal Chef can throw up to 20 pancakes per game, leading to interactions like this. There's a bit more nuance to the card than I've discussed here, but I'll cover the rest of it throughout the video. So, without further ado, I present to you 100 Games Royal Chef. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I'll be your host for these 100 games. For game 1, I decided to play a deck with Evo Goblin Giant and Evo Peck in it, due to the fact that both these cards are broken and they would utilize the Royal Chef ability really well. I started off by facing Zach007, who hit me with the good luck, and shortly after this, things were underway. Right here I got my first taste of the Royal Chef, leveling my Peck up to level 12. Due to the fact that his Goblin Sign had already been leveled up, combined with the fact that he was playing recruits, this tragically didn't change the interaction that much. After a bit more back and forth, I geared up for my first push with the Royal Chef, going into level 12 Evo P.E.K.K.A, supported by a Goblin Sign. And while the monster died a valiant death, it was not in vain, as my P.E.K.K.A was able to connect to the tower, and as you can see, it put in work. Also, this thing is ridiculously tanky. Like, the fact that a level 12 Evo P.E.K.K.A can pretty much single-handedly take a Crown Tower and a King Tower is insane. Moving on to game 2, my opponent was playing Hog Rider, who took advantage of this poorly placed Fisherman by me, and while they got some nice damage from this, it doesn't take away from the fact that they're about to face a level 13 P.E.K.K.A. Keep in mind this thing already has a 20% buff to HP and damage, so adding another 35% to attack speed with Rage is just absolutely overkill. You can see my opponent cry after I take their first Crown Tower, but while trying to defend their King Tower, they have no tears left to spare. In game 3, my opponent was a top 1000 World Tournament player who wished me good luck. I started this game off by placing a Goblin Sign down in the back, which was swiftly met by a Lava Hound from my opponent. And while this was a great use of the Royal Chef pancake by them, this was especially problematic for me because Goblin Sign was my only real air counter in my deck, and with it now gone, I didn't really have anything to defend their Lava Hound push with. When it got to the second time around, I thought that I'd learned from my previous mistakes, but then they lightninged my Goblin Sign, and yeah, let's just say things didn't go so well. For game 4, my opponent was playing Elixir Golem, which is quite honestly a terrible choice in this meta, simply because of how popular Goblin Sign is right now. It has a 43% usage rate. That means you pretty much have a 1 in 2 chance of getting hard counter whenever you go into a game. And I mean, as you can see from this clip right here, just look at how effective it is against E-Golem. Like, I just countered a 13 Elixir push with a 5 Elixir Goblin Sign and a 2 Elixir ability. So, it's really not surprising that I won this game, so just don't play Elixir Golem. If you learn anything from this game, don't play Elixir Golem. The Royal Chef, if I haven't mentioned already, gives troops a 10% boost to HP and damage, which as you can see here, allows them to survive for just a bit longer. And that allowed the P.E.K.K.A to be able to take not only the Crown Tower, but then go on to take half of my opponent's King Tower. And pretty much after that, my opponent gave up, so I just went in with the Goblin Giant, and I just took the King Tower. I mean, come on, what else am I supposed to do, right? In game 6, my opponent managed to get a level 14 Goblin Sign. Not that it stayed alive for long, though. And just around 45 seconds later, there was this intense bridge battle between Broken Evolutions and Broken Evolutions, which was honestly really funny to watch, just like as the Mega Knight just punched everything back and everything got slowed down by the Goblin Sign and the Ice Wizard. Even though my push didn't go anywhere, it was really fun to just see. And I tried to go in here because it was overtime and I was losing on damage. And if I'd just gotten my Goblin Sign ability like half a second earlier, I might have been able to take his tower. But in the end, it didn't matter because he had Graveyard and my deck has one swarm counter, one like multiple targeting troops, which are guards, and I didn't have them in cycle, so I lost. You know, oftentimes I wonder, what could be more enjoyable than your opponent going Lumber London Bridge first play and taking your tower? Well, the answer to that question, folks, is having the perfect counter to your opposite lane push. Now, something else that is equally enjoyable is having your level 12 Evo Goblin Giant getting leveled up, raged, and surviving off of 1 HP because of Royal Chef, and proceeding to not only take their Crown Tower, but also half of their King Towers. And I'm gonna be honest, I'm really glad that this game didn't go into overtime because I was not looking forward to facing a balloon in a three tower situation. Real quick, if you'll notice, when the balloon takes my tower, the chef meter disappeared. And the reason why this happens is because if you lose both of your chefs, you no longer have anyone to cook up your pancakes, meaning you lose the pancake ability. And flash forward to game 71, and the exact same thing happened to me. And at this point in the 100 games, I was playing Lava Hound and I was facing a bridge spam player. Any minor advantage that I had in this matchup was now gone, as I had to defend with virtually no ground troops. And just as expected, I was unable to defend against his onslaught of ground troops. In Game 8, for some reason my opponent decided that the best course of action was to not only take full HP guards, but also a full HP Goblin Giant. And while this did make sense for the Goblin Giant because they were able to build up this monster of a push that I was barely able to defend, it still doesn't make sense why they wouldn't defend guards. I mean, there's 3 elixir. You could play something of equal value and not lose half your tower. But it was really nice, like, later in the game, to be able to, like, flip the script on this guy and instead be the one with the massive push and just watch them scramble to try and defend it. I find it really funny that in Game 9, I had the perfect spell answers to everything that he played on defense. Like, first arrows for the Goblin Gang and Dark Goblin, and then rage for the Bats. Like, that's kind of just cool. Right here, I really thought that I messed up because he went Cannon Cart Mortar at the bridge. But then I remembered the deck that I was playing, and I realized that this would be the easiest 3 crown ever. So that was really nice. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. Game 10 was quite possibly the easiest match of these 100 games, simply because of the fact that my opponent went in with such a weak push. I knew that it would barely manage to graze my tower before my Goblin Giant got to theirs, and I was absolutely correct, because as you can see, that balloon was definitely not 3 frames away from taking my tower. Game 11 was very similar to Game 10, simply because of the fact that it was another super easy balloon game where I had everything under control, and I just knew that I was going to win the game. Oh look, it's a balloon! Do I A. Cycle to an air card, B. Add Rockinins, the 9th card to my deck, or do I C. Completely ignore the balloon and go Goblin Giant opposite lane? Which one do I choose? Yeah, I really think I should have gone with option B. In game 13, all my opponent had to do to defend this push was just play their cards better. I'm not really complaining though because, I mean, I'll take their tower. That's definitely something very good. I'm not going to complain about that. And then around like 40 seconds later, they tried to go in with like a Goblin Sign, Goblin Drill push. And yeah, then I just ended up going in with a Goblin Giant. I took their King Tower. I got the 3 crown. I feel like game 14 should have been a lot harder considering the fact that he had Ice Wizard, Goblin Sign, and Inferno Tower in his deck, but it really wasn't, and I think that's simply because of the fact that it's really hard to kill 2 tanky units when you only have Inferno Tower. In game 15, my opponent started off with a Cannon the Bridge, which honestly makes a lot of sense as they are a log bait player, and these are some of the highest skill caliber players in the game, right behind Hog 2.6 and Expo, and this can be seen as I predict their princess with my Bomber. I tried to go in during overtime with this push right here, and I almost messed up. If I hadn't popped this Goblin Sign ability in time, I don't know if this push would have fully connected to the tower and won me the game. This is just a public service announcement for anybody out there watching this video. Make sure to not play your P.E.K.K.A like that, because not only will it fail to kite the other P.E.K.K.A, it'll fail to defend the Goblin Giant, and then also conveniently get killed by your opponent's Inferno Dragon. But don't worry, if you play everything correctly, you can outplay your opponent with a broken level 12 Evo Goblin Giant. Just look at this thing. Once it has the rage, it is just a Goblin Factory, and it wins you the game. In game 17, I had the absolute displeasure of facing Royal Recruit. Not only did I have no splash aside from Bomber, I didn't have any big spells to be able to kill the Zappies. And the best part about this was that whenever I played a 6 elixir Goblin Giant or a 7 elixir P.E.K.K.A, all he had to do was play a Goblin Cage, and it would conveniently shut my push down. Just an overall fun matchup. I would definitely recommend that you play this. In game 18, my opponent was a top 1000 player. Things were honestly going pretty well this game. I mean, as you can see, my P.E.K.K.A right here is getting a ton of value, and it probably would have taken his tower if he hadn't played a Bandit. But then for some reason, when I saw a Ram Rider charging down the lane, I thought that I should play a Goblin Giant to body block it, rather than a P.E.K.K.A which could actually kill it. Also, check out this really funny Hog Rider interaction. It's like deciding if it wants to hit the tower, but then it's like, nah, I'm not going to do that. Ultimately, I ended up winning game 19, and I didn't even let him take a single crown tower, so that was pretty fire. In game 20, my opponent tried to go all in after I played my Evo P.E.K.K.A in the back, and while they did manage to take my right crown tower, they had nothing to defend my push in the left lane. And this really highlights why you need to make sure that you're not overcommitting to your pushes, because if they just played a battle ram to kite my P.E.K.K.A, they probably could have avoided this entire situation, but they didn't do that, and they lost. Interestingly, if you'll notice at the beginning of each game, the World Chef cooking meter doesn't appear until 7 seconds have passed. And this is actually a result of the nerf that the devs made before releasing the World Chef to the public. Previously, it immediately started cooking before the game began, had 5% more HP, and had a shorter cook time of 15 to 25 seconds compared to the current cook time of 18 to 30 seconds. And to be honest, like, while I feel like these were good nerfs, I feel like they weren't enough to make the card balanced per se. I mean, seriously, how does somebody defend a push like this in the clip right here? You just can't. You just lose the game. Not much happened in game 22. I did win though. In game 23, I was visited by the Ghost of Christmas Lag, who gave me not just one, but 2 gifts. In game 24, I decided that the best course of action is to place my guards so they would get as little defensive value as possible. And guess what? I succeeded. You know what else I succeeded at? Sending this absolutely incredible push at my opponent's tower, successfully slaughtering their magic archer, and then taking the crown tower. And as they say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I repeated the exact same push in the left lane and successfully took their crown tower. Sorry in advance that this gameplay is getting boring. There are only like 2 more games, and then I'm switching to a new deck. I promise. Game 25, I had this tragic interaction where my Goblin Sign just barely missed out on killing the Phoenix. Thankfully, it didn't matter because I was playing Royal Giant, and quite frankly, I had such a good matchup that even a toddler could win. In game 26, I really wish that I'd used my Rage on offense rather than defense here, because I feel like I could have ended the game a lot sooner. Not that it really mattered though, because I still ended up taking his crown tower. For game 27, I really wanted to try out a new deck, because while the other one was a lot of fun, I wanted to see what a level 12 Evo Mega Knight or what a level 12 Archer Queen would be able to do. In my first game, my opponent was playing Pigs, which was a great matchup for me, and I was able to get off this Royal Chef push where I had a level 12 Mega Knight and a level 12 Ram Rider, and I took their crown tower. I did have a bit of a scare right here because I thought the Evo Skellies wouldn't get killed by my Royal Ghost and my guards, but thankfully they did. Same thing in this clip right here. I got worried my Mega Knight would miss one of the Evo Skellies and that I'd like throw the whole game, but thankfully that didn't happen. For game 28, my opponent was playing Royal Hog's Rage, and I spent most of the game defending up until this point right here, when I finally decided to go in with an Evo Mega Knight and a level 12 Archer Queen. And without the Royal Chef, this Archer Queen would not have been able to get its final hit off and take the tower. Same thing right here with this interaction. The Archer Queen had just enough HP to take the King Tower. All that I had to do in game 29 was just go with Lightning like half a second earlier, and I could have avoided this entire mess, but I chose not to, and instead I had to frantically defend with the Mega Knight, and then also hope and pray that my Ram Rider would get enough damage before the Golem took my tower. And thankfully it did, but as you can see, the Golem was very close to taking it, and thankfully I got the win. I don't want to talk about what happened in game 30. In game 31, my opponent was playing the P.E.K.K.A Goblin Giant deck that I've been playing earlier. I had a great matchup, so it makes sense why they prematurely declared a game. And I'm going to be honest, I thought that they gave up, but then they continued to defend, and I was a bit confused because I was like, alright, should I keep pushing or are they giving up? I don't know what to do here. I had a lot of fun against Daniel in game 32. Ultimately, while I lost this game, I'm comforted knowing that I can look forward to my relationship with Daniel, one which is ultimately built upon respect for the opponent. In game 33, my opponent went Wall Breakers and Goblin Barrel at the exact same time, so of course I had to punish them by taking their crown tower. And then less than 10 seconds later, they made the exact same play. And of course, I had to punish them again for it, so I took their other crown tower. Sometimes, it's okay to just take a deep breath in and not play all of your cards to the bridge. El Carlitos. Check out this frame perfect lightning in game 34. My opponent pops the Archer Queen ability, causing the Mega Knight to retarget, which then jumps, kills the recruit, and then takes the crown tower, winning me the game. Just insane. Game 35 started off with these 2 royal ghosts avoiding each other, similar to how my ex-wife avoids me. And speaking of my ex-wife, imagine she's the royal giant and I'm the Mega Knight. That gives you a picture of our relationship. And in the end, just like my ex-wife, I got screwed. In game 36, I was inspired by a small Australian YouTuber to play Evo P.E.K.K.A Freeze. And for some reason, my opponent decided that the best play here was to tornado the P.E.K.K.A. to the wizard, just to heal it up and make sure that I got the crown tower that I deserved. And I'm gonna be honest, when I played this deck, I did not expect it to work this well. Like, the fact that I got a 3 crown in my first game with it is just insane. Game 37, I was visited by the Ghost of Christmas Lag once again, but this time, I got a 20 elixir push and a BMing opponent in a pair tree. After my tragic defeat in Game 37, I had to lock in with a serious deck. And for what I thought was going to be a tower trade right here, things turned out surprisingly well. My E-Drag somehow managed to win the 2v1 against the Mega Minion and the Firecracker. And while my opponent did go in with a Night Witch a bit later, it thankfully wasn't able to take the towers, and after this, the rest of the game was a cakewalk. For game 39, I decided that I should switch back to an actual deck, so I went back to the Ram Rider Mega Knight deck. In this game, my opponent was playing a really obnoxious Royal Recruits Hogs deck, and after defending this push, I went in with the Ram Rider and Royal Ghost, and thanks to the Ram Rider, the snare dealt enough damage that I was able to kill the archers with a snowball and take the crown tower. The only disappointing part about this defense right here is that the Pancake has a bit of delay, meaning that I wasn't able to get a level 12 Mega Knight drop damage. Thankfully it didn't matter, and after I defended this push, there wasn't much that they were able to do, so I was able to win the game. In game 40, I was able to win the game in overtime, thanks to the Royal Chef giving my Archer Queen just enough HP to survive the Ice Wizard and take the Crown Tower with the final shot. Game 41 might have had one of the stupidest endings to a Clash Royale game that I'd ever seen, and I'm gonna be honest, I feel like this is one of those instances where if Clash Royale actually had logic in it, the tower would have retargeted and killed the Ram Rider. Game 42 once again highlights what makes the Royal Chef so good, and it's that 10% HP boost, which is the difference between your Archer Queen getting killed by the Valkyrie and you being able to pop the Archer Queen ability and being able to kill said Valkyrie. Also, I cannot believe that I made such a monumental fumble right here. All I had to do was place the Mega Knight on top of the golem and it would knock it back to the bridge. But for some reason, I chose to place it behind the tower because I was like, let's continue this game into overtime. Thankfully, it didn't matter that much because my Ram Rider managed to not only charge through an Evo Valkyrie tornado, but then a real tornado, and then another Evo Valkyrie tornado, and then I finally won this game with an Evo Mega Knight jump. Game 43 once again highlights how the Royal Chef changes interactions because in this one right here, it gave the Archer Queen just enough of a boost in attack damage that it was able to kill the Royal Recruit shield in one hit rather than two. Same thing with this Royal Ghost clip right here, where the 10% HP increase allows it to get an extra hit or two against the Cannoneer rather than dying, which honestly caused quite the change in the course of the game. And of course, fittingly, I won this game with the level 12 Ram Rider, which got me the win. Have I mentioned that this card is broken yet? Here's clip number 543 showcasing that. I mean, seriously, like, what do you do in this type of situation? Do you log off, move to a different country, change your name, and then get married to a random Vietnamese woman? That's probably what I would do. In game 45, I was facing a caffeinated beverage, and the 64 milligrams of caffeine per cup put up quite the fight. I started to get a bit worried right here, and thought that I might have thrown the game considering how much tower damage they were up, but then I remembered that I had Royal Chef and Ram Rider, and things turned out just fine. Because a card should be able to get through a Magic Archer, Tornado, and Evo Skellies and still make it to the Crown Tower. That makes total sense, right? Game 46 was another thrilling game against Logbait. This clip really shows you all that you need to know about this game. Game 47 started off with this absolutely tragic interaction, and the thought process behind it was that the guards would kill the Royal Ghost, and then I'd defend the P.E.K.K.A. with a Mega Knight, but things did not go as planned. In game 48, my opponent was playing Poison Minor Control, and as you can see from this clip right here, I predicted that they would play a Valkyrie a second later, which is why I played the Snowball a second earlier for it to miss. And without these incredible mind games from me, I don't think that my Mega Knight and Royal Ghost would have been able to connect to the tower and win me the game. Real quick, for game 49, I want you to note the HP of the Archer Queen and the Ram Rider. Next, I want you to note how they take both the Crown Tower and the King Tower. In game 50, I showcased my sloth-like reaction speed by not snowballing these spear goblins when there was clearly plenty of time for me to see them coming. And in the past, I've heard the saying, the more the merrier, and I really like this saying, so I figured that the best thing to do would be apply this to Clash Royale. I don't know if this guy really enjoyed it though, considering at the end of the game he was crying. In game 51, I made the biggest mistake of these 100 games, which was choosing to play Eagle. Not only does the Royal Chef not have much synergy with it, but Goblin Sign is so prevalent in the meta, there's pretty much a 50% chance of you getting hard countered while playing it. And as a result of this, I figured that it'd be better if I just showed you the end result of each game, so here you go. 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58. Okay, we're past the Eagle and Madness. After that, I wanted to switch to a Lava Hound deck to see how it would pair with the Royal Chef, and I think I hit the jackpot with this deck. It has Arrows, Lightning, and Goblin Cage, all of which synergize really well with the Royal Chef and are great to use when you don't want to waste the Royal Chef pancake on something like a Bomber or Guards. And you can use the Goblin Cage on defense against heavy ground pushes like these ones, where the Evo Goblin Cage can really showcase its strengths. In this push right here, I wasn't able to fully set it up the way I wanted to get a level 13 Lava Hound, but you can see what I mean by using the Arrows and Lightning as a filler card. For game 60, I managed to get a level 13 Lava Hound, and just check out the damage on the Lava Pups. The great part about them being leveled up is that they take an extra hit from the Crown Tower, which makes a huge difference, and it's essentially like having a level 13 minion horde directly on the tower. Right here, my Evo Bomber sniped the tower, and then the rest of the game was history. In game 61, I managed to get this crazy value Lightning on my opponent's Goblin Sign, meaning that they had virtually no air counters to defend my push. And you can see from the amount of emotes that I'm spamming that I really enjoyed being the one using the Lightning on the Goblin Sign, rather than vice versa. So this is a really satisfying win to get. For game 62, my opponent was a Lockbait player, and things went exactly as expected. I'm gonna be honest, I have no idea what deck this guy was playing in game 63, but what I do know is that Goblin Cage, especially Evo Goblin Cage, carried me this game, and I was able to win this game with the Lightning straight to the King Tower's dome. Struggling with a Ram Rider? Why don't we show you our latest and greatest offer, Evo Goblin Cage. For only $19.99, you can get as many riders in your cage as you please. Advertisement aside, check out this value Lightning, which hit the Goblin Sign and both the Evo Archers, which pretty much led me to winning the game. In game 65, I found myself in quite the precarious situation. With just 20 seconds left on the clock, I would have to defend an onslaught of ground troops with nothing but one elixir and a dream. Not to worry though, as my Evo Goblin Cage acted as the perfect defense. In total, this 4 elixir evolved card managed to kill not only an Ice Wizard, but a Ram Rider, a Royal Ghost, and a Bandit, all within the span of 20 seconds. This is game 66. As I was saying earlier, having Lightning and Arrows in this deck is great because of moments like these, where you can still use your elixir and have the pancake go to your Lava Hound. This allows you to build up more support units, or even wait to punish their next air counter, while their tower slowly gets whittled away by your Lava Hound. And you know how a couple of games ago I said that you shouldn't play E-Golem because of Goblin Sign? Well, you also shouldn't play it because of Lightning being so popular, otherwise you'll end up with a similar fate to this guy. In game 68, I arrowed my opponent's King Tower in order to handicap myself because of how talented I am. And I know that I've been mentioning how broken the Evo Goblin Cage is, but rightfully so, because the fact that it can just destroy a 7 elixir card and still have more counter push potential is insane. I'm kind of sad this wasn't game 69 because, come on, fiddle me bum. I mean, that just would have been perfect. Speaking of game 69, it started off with quite the pummeling for my opponent. However, it appeared that I wouldn't be the only one taking all this damage, because as soon as the Royal Ghost got filled up with a pancake, my tower really got railed. And even though this was tragic, I hit my opponent back with some shots, using my Lightning to make everything feel just a bit more electric, and using my Hot Dragon to tickle away at his P.E.K.K.A. Quite the performance for 3 minutes, which I'd personally say is quite a long time. 3 minutes is long, right? Right, guys? Game 70 had some pretty serious stakes, as I was currently 12-2 in my Classic Challenge. My opponent for this game was playing Pigs Archer Queen Cycle, and considering that I had Lightning, this was a pretty good matchup for me. And right after I got this Lightning off, I was pretty confident that I would be able to win the game. And right after taking their tower, I decided that I would protect my Inferno Dragon with some guards, which was honestly a great decision, because look at how much damage it did to their King Tower. I pretty much was 2 Lightnings away from winning the game, and that's exactly what happened. I Lightning to their King Tower and I won the game. This was the first Classic Challenge win on this account, which was pretty nice to see. Just reminding you that I already showed you game 71, and not much happened in game 72, so let's cut to the next one. For game 73, I was facing a plastic cylinder that you put in your mouth. This plastic cylinder was playing 3 Musketeers, the only appearance that it makes throughout the entire video, which checks out because of its 1% usage rate. The issue with this matchup was that I didn't have Fireball in my deck, and I also was never able to apply pressure, because I didn't have cards like Balloon or Skeleton Army. I also didn't have many ground troops, so when a Battle Ram was charging at my tower and my Goblin Cage was gone, I would end up losing the game like I did right here. Lo and behold, it's game 74! For game 75, my opponent was playing Royal Giant and played at the exact same time as I went Lava Hound, which thankfully wasn't a problem as I had my Inferno Dragon ready. Funnily enough, it was the same Inferno Dragon that would go on to do 2,000 damage to my opponent's Crown Tower. Around a minute later in the game, I fully secured the Crown Tower with an Evo Bomber, and my opponent tried to get an extra crown at the end of the game with the Royal Giant at the bridge, but was quickly shut down by my Evo Goblin Cage. For game 76, I wanted to switch to a Royal Giant deck to test out how broken a level 12 Evo RG would be. And ironically, while I switched this deck with the intent of showcasing that, I instead learned how broken a level 12 Monk would be directly on the tower. And in the last couple of seconds of this game, my opponent went in with the tried and true classic Goblin Barrel RG push, which they almost got away with if it weren't for the timer running out. Dun, 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 dun. That's the Indiana Jones music, by the way, if you couldn't tell. And you know what they say, what's better than one Royal Giant? Two Royal Giants. Although apparently not, because this push got shut down pretty quick. At the end of the game right here, I had a bit of a scare, but thankfully my Hunter was able to clutch up against the Royal Hogs, and I won the game. Apparently it takes not one, not two, not three, not four, but 5 Royal Giants before one finally makes it to the Crown Tower and wins me the game. In game 79, I got a rare win against Logbait, which was pretty satisfying to get, even after playing 97 games. Watch as this Royal Chef throws an absolute airball of a pancake, and then watch as my opponent places a Golem down in front of his mortar, which I really didn't know how to react to. Should I have been scared? Should I have celebrated? And I feel like the answer is unclear because with 5 seconds left on the clock, my footage corrupted, and I guess we'll never know what happened. Game 81, I made an incredible play, defending a troop that only attacks towers with another troop that only attacks towers. It's really not surprising that I lost this game if I was playing like that. Well, look, it's the deck that I've already played 27 games with. Yeah, let's speed this up real quick. Tower 1, Tower 2, Crown Tower, 3 Crown, win, loss, loss. Don't even ask me what I was thinking at this point. And against all odds, right here, this prince ended up charging and did 1,000 damage to the Crown Tower, which is just absolutely insane. Also, I was unaware of this, but if an Evo Mega Knight punches an E-Giant, then the Mega Knight punch gets reset, meaning that the E-Giant doesn't get knocked back into oblivion. And I ended up winning this game with a Lightning, which I feel like has happened quite a few times by now, but honestly it makes sense. I've been playing a lot of decks with Lightning. Can anyone tell me why this deck is working? I feel like there's just something so wrong about having Prince and E-Giant in the same deck. It's like the same as having like Fireball and Poison in the same deck. It just shouldn't be working. In game 89, I ended up bullying this Royal Hogs Archer Queen player. First, I managed to perfectly time my E-Giant so it would go down at the exact same time as they popped their Archer Queen ability. And on top of that, I predicted their Evo Ice Spirit with a Tornado, which helped the Evo E-Drag get an extra hit. Also, I feel like I was a bit tilted right here. I may have been letting my frustration out through these emotes. In game 90, I got tricked by a Deep Barrel and tornadoed the goblins directly to my tower, a high skill play which few have managed to recreate aside from my 2v2 teammates. Speaking of skilled plays which are hard to recreate, my opponent actually did a pretty good job of dissecting my push here. The only thing that I would have recommended is playing their Inferno Dragon one tile higher so that it would have been able to hit my E-Drag and negate more damage. Just around a minute and a half later, I took their tower with the 1 HP E-Giant, causing them to throw their phone in a local repository and get them out of their house and go to get a job. This is game 91. Things were going well with this E-Giant deck, and for some reason, I decided to verbalize that I had gone undefeated with it, and in game 92 it ended tragically with this Lightning, where it just barely missed the Bandit, causing me to lose the game. It's alright because in game 93 things went differently and I brutally lost the game. I really thought that game 94 was going to be different than the last two, but I ended up losing by 26 HP to Earthquake Cycle. This is why you should never say that things are going well. It's like the same thing as asking what could go wrong and then everything going wrong. You're just asking for it. Not to worry though, as I did end up winning game 95. For game 96, I decided to play Golem Clone because why not? Even though it didn't synergize well with the Royal Chef, it was still pretty fun, and I think one of the funniest things about Clone is that even if you get an absolutely brilliant clone off like I did right here, it doesn't matter because all your opponent has to do is play a small spell and boom, your push is gone. This right here is an example of how not to play Clone. I think that the Clone damage was about as useful as a sponge is in the ocean, but I still won the game though, so I'll take it. For game 97, I decided to switch over to this Battlefield or Golem deck, and if you ever get the chance to play Royal Chef, please play this Golem deck. Pretty much the way that it works is you pump up until double elixir, and the moment that it does hit double elixir, you go Golem the back. This then followed by a Battle Healer and an Evo E-Drag. And then finally, you tornado all of their troops in, You win the game because your push is so hard to kill that unless they have Mirror Rocket, they lose the game. Another great thing about this deck is it has Evo Barbs, which are just such a good card on defense that almost anything they throw at you dies, like this Royal Giant did. Also, for future reference, in case this wasn't already blindingly obvious, do not try to go all in against Golem. Things will not work out well for you. I mean, you'll end up gaining a tower, but you'll also be left trying to defend 32 elixir on your king tower, and just be absolutely screwed. And yes, I did count. That is 32 elixir on his king tower. In game 99, my opponent rushed me with Lumber along the bridge right after I went elixir pump and took my crown tower, so of course, I had to retaliate and take their king tower. It looks like we're finally at game 100. It's time to test what I've learned throughout these 100 games, and I had the perfect opponent for it. They started off the game with the Goblin Giant mini pack at the bridge, which I had the perfect answer for until they fireballed and killed my barbs. Thankfully, my battle healer survived, and with the help of a barb barrel, I was able to kill the mini P.E.K.K.A. Almost immediately after defending that push, I went in with a premature elixir pump, and as a result of that, I got punished by a knight and minions from my opponent. Although I'm gonna be honest, I don't think they were ready for the push that was about to hit them. I knew right here that they were going to fireball my Evo E-Drag and try and kill it, so I placed my battle healer at this exact moment, and lo and behold, as I predicted, they went with the fireball. It was pretty much at this point in the game that I knew it was over. Even if my opponent hadn't given up and magically came back to their device, there was simply no way that they could defend everything that was on the board right now. And so, for my 100th game with the Royal Chef, I sealed the deal and won the game. So that was 100 games of Royal Chef. I hope that you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it, and if you did, please make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. Maybe I'll make another one of these videos if it does well enough. That's all for this video, so until next time, peace out.